Isn't it wonderful to go to your sewing room and simply close out the world? Sitting at my machine gives me such peace and tranquility. I've often thought about why I love to sew, and I guess I have several answers. One is that sewing does not come undone. Just about everything else that I do has to be repeated daily, whether it's doing the dishes, loading the dishwasher, a little bit of ironing, or cooking mostly low cholesterol meals. But sewing just stays put until I come back and start again. I call it my masterpieces in progress. Why do you sew? I guess the love of sewing is different for everyone. But one thing I do know, sewing brings great pleasure. Two special guests are with me today for your sewing pleasure, Pam Damour and Beverley Sheldrick. Thank you so much for being with me today. Let's get started. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today Pam Damour. Pam is known all over the world as the decorating diva. Pam is here with the Warm Company, and Pam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. You know, Martha, I've been in the decorating business for 25 years, and I like to not only decorate pretty, I like to decorate practically. And right now, with the price of heating, with fuel costs, heating and cooling, I'm using a lot of insulated products. So I want to show you one of the products that I like to use, and these are something that you can buy anywhere in your part of the country. And this is a shade. It's an insulated shade, and you can order it already made, just like you'd order your mini blinds or your, honeycomb type shades. This is a product you would order, and it's a nice thick insulated shade that will give you protection from the heat and the cold. They come in solid colors, but one of the nice things is they are a solid palette, so we can decorate them with a valance of our choice. And this is a valance that I've chosen to show you how to make today. It's I call this my shirt tail valance, and it just is 2 layers of fabric with 2 layers of interlining with a beautiful embroidery designed by my friend. I've got the colors here of the insulated shades that they come in, and again, they're going to vary depending on where you live. And now my valance is cut out of just a basic lining fabric and a flannel interlining. To get the curve, I use a template like this, and I just follow the outline of the template. And if you want a different shape, you would just change it to the different size scallop. Okay? So you want to have 4 layers of fabric. You have your face fabric, the interlining for that, your lining fabric, and the interlining for that. I've chosen a really pretty silk as our main fabric, and again, this is the interlining, and this is already embroidered out for me. One of the cool things I'd like to show you is how I do the trim. This is a trim that I call micro welt. I want you to feel this, Martha. Feel that cord.
Oh my goodness.
It's firm,
very soft
and it's
firm.
smooth
and tiny.
But it's got good density, so it holds its shape. So when you go to sew it, your zipper foot can actually feel the cord. So we just put the welt cord, and this is called micro welt in the decorating industry.
Okay.
And we're going to sew this down, and I'm going to sew just a little bit here for you. I'm going to sew just a little bit, and I'm actually going to sew down around the curve to show you how to sew around a curve.
Okay.
And I'm going to snip. I know I had some, you have scissors, yeah?
Snips right here.
And we're just going to snip every so far. And you want to keep the snip sort of even, because that'll keep your curve nice and smooth.
Okay.
And you can tell if you've snipped enough that when your seam allowance is lying flat. If you are sewing around your curve, and all these little curly cues right here, if these are all curling up like that, you know you haven't clipped enough.
Okay.
Now, when you sew this together, you're going to sandwich your 2 layers together just like this.
Okay.
All right. And then we're going to follow this line as our tracing line. And as you sew the back of this, you're going to want to sew 1 continuous row of stitching all the way around like a pillowcase. It's called pillowcasing. And you don't want to stop. You don't want to sew down the edge, go off the edge, and then come back on. You want 1 continuous row of stitching, because when you clip that corner, you've clipped through the threads, and it's going to come apart. And this is an example of how it was stitched, and I can show you on this piece. Now I've chosen to make the piece asymmetrical with one side bigger than the other and the embroidery off to the side a little bit. And you can see I've stitched that as one continuous row of stitching. And then this is the real secret. You know how in garments when you have a curve you have to you grade it and clip it? You don't do that in decorating.
Okay.
Because the reason why is when you do that in decorating, when you clip those curves, it creates little points. And also the light can shine through, and then you're going to have little bits of shadow shining through. So you want to clip to about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. And if you clip that curve nice and small and clip it real close like this, then when you turn it, it's going to press really nice and smooth, and you don't have any little points, and you don't have any little dots of light shining through. Okay?
Okay.
Now after this is finished, this gets mounted on a board. Now people think that that's just some secret decorator code word, because we do use a lot of code words. It's just a piece of lumber from the lumber store. That's all it is. It's just a piece of lumber. It's not a secret code word. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you've made this treatment and you've got your both pieces together, let me start, even though this one's not sewn together, I don't have it finished, it would overlap like this. Okay, the two pieces would overlap. And you would want them to overlap and give yourself enough edge on both sides to wrap around the side of the board. In the decorating industry, this part along the end of the board is called the return. That's the projection of the window treatment. If you're going to put it over a shade like the insulated quilted shades or any kind of shade, make sure you allow enough projection that it will cover the outside of the shade. You don't want the board to be skinnier. I used a skinnier board just for demo purposes, but you want to make sure that the board is fat enough that it gives you at least about an inch clearance between the front of the shade and the back of the valance. Okay? To mount this on a board, and I know if we have any men watching, we're going to get their attention because we have power tools.
Power tools.
And it's very important that this is mounted square, and I always start with it at the return. And I'm actually going to stand up for this because I need to just get a little bit of weight behind this.
All right.
Okay, we're going to staple into there. And then we want to miter that on the corner.
Okay.
And then we're going to staple that down. I'm just going to hit it with a few staples just to show you how that's done. This gets mounted with an L bracket on the wall. Very easy to do. Whoops. A little trigger happy there. And that is how.
That is beautiful.
Isn't that wonderful? Now, the way that you would finish that is you'd take your tack strip and you just put a few staples here with a little bit of tack strip. This is just a piece of cardboard. Oh, trigger happy again. And then wrap that over to the top and wrap that to the back. And now it's finished.
And you staple on the back too?
And I would staple along the back, yes.
Wow.
So that would go along, and then I would just staple, bring it to the back. Just hit it with 2 or 3 staples. And just trim that off. And this you don't need to worry about finishing because that goes against the wall. So then you take your L bracket, mount it on the wall, creates a little shelf, just like this one created a little shelf here. You see, I didn't do the dust cover so that you could see what it looked like when it was all together.
It's very beautiful. Hold that up. Pam, you know what I love so much about this too? It's another way to do the wonderful machine embroidery.
It really is.
It's so elegant with
And
the
you know,
D for Damour, and you could put your monogram.
And if you have a business, this is high-end in decorating. People pay big bucks for decorators to put this in. Big bucks.
And that's another idea for using the embroidery machine too. Oh, Pam, that was
Thank
so
you.
much fun. And now Pam has some more sewing inspirations for you. Pam, this may be my all-time favorite pillow. Tell me about this.
It's my all-time favorite. I loved white poinsettias. I decorate my house with white poinsettias at Christmas time. So what I did was I looked at my flower and it took me about 2 days of making leaves and recutting them. And I loved how my leaves had a little bit of green. So I looked for a variegated thread that had a little bit of soft green that kind of faded in and out. And I just used a light quilt batting. You know, and like I use the needle punch cotton batting.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous. And you know how much I love monograms.
Yes, that's upside down.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. You know, you and we travel all over the country teaching and sharing our samples. So I wanted to share samples that I don't have to carry as many. So if you flip it over,
this is what's so much fun.
It's really 2 pillows in one. So it shows 2 different techniques, and I think embroidery really enhances. And I love the monograms. I love the micro welt that we just did in the valance, and that's another way of showing how to do the micro welt.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And snowflakes.
Yes, my friend and digitized this embroidery design. Isn't it gorgeous? I said,
it is gorgeous.
I want something, I said, that sort of fills the flap of the envelope. So she did that for me. And again, drafting a pattern so that this wouldn't stick out was a challenge. But I really think we did a good job.
You did a wonderful job. Oh, and the christening pillow.
Isn't that
or
beautiful?
The birth celebration or wedding pillow.
Yep.
With the cross on it.
Yep, for a ring bearer, you can put the rings in here.
Oh, okay, of course, the rings.
We also have them with
places to tie.
With the Star of David. So and we have them with the monogram too, so that you know I make them for all kinds of occasions.
Oh, absolutely. And my all-time favorite is your valances.
Yeah, this is similar to the one we just did, the shirt tail valance, a little bit different detail, adding some banding with the micro welt and the buttons. And then this is another idea using the micro welting with a little insert.
Let me hold this up here.
A contrasting insert with a little button. Little button embellishment just to enhance it a little bit.
This is so good looking. This goes with the pillow.
Yes, it goes with the pillow, yes.
Oh, Pam, these are just beautiful. I can tell you're an interior designer as well as a sewing designer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now Pam has a So Quick, So Easy project to share with you. Pam, I cannot wait for you to show this wonderful pillow and zipper technique.
Oh, Martha, I just love this pillow. And this has a companion monogram to the little valance that we just made. What I did is I appliqued the silk over the top of this silk plaid. So I have a silk dupioni on top of a silk plaid. So first, let's show how I did the applique. I already stitched up the embroidery. And I've got this piece already fused down, ready to go. And the way that I did that is I use this double stick fusible web tape. Have you ever used this?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Isn't it great? And so I love using this. If I can unpeel it here. And I just, rather than iron it on and then peel the paper off, I just stick it underneath and then I iron it. And I iron it down so it holds in place, and then it's ready to sew just like this. And I just did like a medium-sized zigzag along the edge of the matching thread. You could use a contrasting thread if you want it to be more decorative, okay? And then after I did that part, then we need to put in the zipper. And here's an example of how the zipper goes in, okay? Now this is a zipper, just a zipper tape, and this is a special home deck zipper made for the home decorating industry. I just want to show you how easy this is to put on.
There's no zip on there. It's just the tape.
There's no slide. It's just the tape itself. And I have to tell you, Martha, in 25 years of being in the decorating business, I have never once had to replace one of my zippers.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you use that just as decorating the tape.
And
you're going to slide on it, I suppose, a little bit later. It must have a slide, doesn't it?
It does have a slide. The nice thing about this is there's no stopper to damage your needle. There's no slide to damage your needle. And you can sew right over the zipper tape. It doesn't hurt your machine at all. Now, when I do this, I want to see that the plaids are lined up. But if they're not lined up, I can actually use the zipper tape to realign my plaids. So it's kind of cool that way.
All right.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
It's not really easy to match plaids at any time, I don't think. I know my mother was a real stickler on matching plaids. She said, you just can't have a dress with plaids that don't match.
And don't we always notice that when we're someplace and someone has a mismatched plaid skirt?
I have to tell you, I really do.
Yeah.
I know, of course, I wouldn't say anything, but I do notice mismatched plaids. Now, how in the world are you going to get that slide
You ready?
on there?
Here we go.
All right, real slowly so I can see now. Oh.
Now, what I'm going to do is the zipper tape. Now, when I do this in class, ladies always go, oh! I pull it open, and they're like, oh my gosh, he just ripped that zipper open. All right, so we take the slide, and you want to use the end with 2 holes. It's the rounded end with the 2 holes.
Okay.
Okay. And you're going to start with 1 hole in one side, just a little bit, just enough to catch it. Okay. Then you're going to bring the other side in, and just enough to catch it. And then you're going to push it on, push it on, push it on, and it's on. Would you like to see that again?
I do. I would like to see that again.
Okay.
Okay.
One side on just a little bit.
Okay.
One side on just a little bit. And then push it on, just like that.
And your zipper is now a zipper.
And now you say, how are you going to finish that pillow? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to sew down the side. And we can sew right through that zipper tape.
Okay.
Right over the top of it. And that's why it doesn't need a lock on the end.
Sew the other side and then.
Yeah. Again, kind of lining my plaids up.
Okay.
Oops. And you notice the machine doesn't even hesitate when it goes over that zipper slide. And guess what? You just pop it open. Because
Pop
it's a
the
home deck
whole-
zipper, there's no lock on it.
Oh,
so you can just
okay.
pop it open. And now we have, isn't it much faster than trying to sew it up by hand?
The whole pillow finished with no hand sewing
Yes.
at all. Pam, thank you so very
Thank you
much
for
for that
having me.
quickening. It's been a joy.
Thank
to
you
have
for having me.
And now I have some hand embroidery for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague, Beverley Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverley, welcome to the show and thank you for coming again.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Martha. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and to be with your viewers, so thank you. Now, today I'm going to show the viewers a very simple little rosebud. It really is the most simple of all the rosebuds, but it's very, very effective, particularly where you want it on a very small area. It can be very effective indeed, and it's also very effective in a little clump of rosebuds. You know how it is with roses. So we're going to do that. We're also going to do, you'll see on the dress, we've got these blue spiky twigs all over it. They're there. They're on the booties. We've got them all just all over the place. And so you can see there's an area here where they are, and you will see if you look at these booties here, you will see that we have these little single rosebuds like that. You'll also see that we have again these blue feather stitch fronds. It's just such a simple little stitch. It is just feather stitch which has been tortured.
Tortured feather stitch. It is certainly elegant for tortured feather stitch.
But it's certainly very effective. So Martha, we'll just look at what I've done here. You can see first of all that I've got the three little clump of rosebuds here. You can make them much smaller if you want to, so much it depends on the size that you need. So you can see I've just got a straight stitch here. And I've done a nice big one here to make it easier for the viewers to see it. You can see first of all using some green. I like to use the stranded silk, particularly almond silk. It's just a simple little stitch there, and then I've done a fly stitch around it just to give it that full look there. Now you'll see here we've got some of just this normal feather stitch. I'm doing this in a plain single strand there, and you'll see here I've got this tortured feather stitch. But it's very effective. You can see it here, and you can see here, while I haven't used this on any of the gown or anything, just exactly the same stitch done using silk ribbon, and I've used that to great effect at times, but not today. So here we are, just very simple, just a straight stitch. There's no great mysteries to that. I think we can all do that. Just keep it straight. Viewers, we do want it flat. We just don't want a twist. You can see how I've just smoothed that down with my thumb. Now we have this nice big one to make it easy for you to see. I've just used one strand here, like this. And then you can see here, I've got that center one. I am now going to put in that fly stitch there like that. Well, that couldn't be easier, could it? And then you will see over here, I've actually got 2 strands of the blue silk floss here, and you can see how I've got one of these little tortured ones. Just you know how when we do feather stitch, we try to have it all nice and even, and just when you've mastered that, I come along and say, well, let's muck around with it. But it is very effective. When I did both on the booties and on the gown, I've used a single strand because I didn't want too great an intensity of colour, and I think that it gives it a far greater delicacy if you've got just a single strand like that. So you can see, just do it in a very random fashion like this, just so simple. Now, I said earlier on about doing it in the silk ribbon, and I find this particularly useful if you're doing, say, a large picture where you're using perhaps the 7mm ribbon and you just want to add something a little bit special, something feathery. You can use it. You can see I'm using a 4mm ribbon here. I could have used a 2mm ribbon if I'd wanted, and I've used that again to great effect at times. But it just, when you don't want anything solid, it's just enough to give that lovely little feathery stitch like that. So you can see you don't have to worry about. Now I should have that going the other way, so I'm just going to slide that back like that and take it through and make it do as I want it to do, like that. You can see I've actually got a bit of a knot there, and that again can be very pretty if you're wanting another texture using the same stitch but just adding that extra texture to whatever you want. You can't get too small with these, because otherwise the ribbon starts to complain a wee bit. I know it's crazy.
I love complaining ribbon.
Well, we can complain, why can't the ribbon?
That's it. Oh, Beverly.
And isn't that simple?
It is very simple, and it's very beautiful, and everything is just so perfect the way you did on this beautiful, beautiful dress for William Joseph. Beverly, thank you so much.
Thank you,
And now
Martha.
I have a beautiful christening dress to share with you from my vintage collection. This beautiful Ayrshire dress is one of my older pieces. It would probably be dated around 1870 is my thinking. It has a wonderful little short sleeve and the scoop neck, which of course is drawn in with the threads that are run through the casings. And it does have a waistline, and then I'm going to open it up so you can see the beautiful Ayrshire embroidery. Now, this is not an overly elaborate dress. It's just a very beautiful one with the embroidery that goes all the way down, of course, to the bottom of the skirt and spreads out beautifully at the bottom of the skirt. Sometimes the dresses are really, 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 really elaborate with embroidery. For my Sewing from the Heart today, I have a letter from Laverne Fowler from Nortonville, Kansas. The Northeast Kansas Quilters Guild meets the first Tuesday of every month at the Cummings Methodist Church in Cummings, Kansas. The ladies make quilts, lap robes, chair pads, and tote bags for those in need. The tote bags are in great demand for the victims of domestic violence. Sometimes they're filled with personal items needed when a person has nothing at all. Quilts are given to those who have lost their homes in a disaster or those who are in need. The lap robes are given to nursing homes or disabled persons. All fabric is donated, and it is worked up into very, very lovely items. And Laverne from Kansas, Laverne Fowler, I want to thank you so much, you and the ladies who are meeting there at the Cummings Methodist Church in Cummings, Kansas. You're doing an incredible job using your sewing machine to sew for those in need or those less fortunate. Thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today. I certainly hope you can come back next time.